Tuesday. Thanks for being here. Okay, perfect. Can you all see my screen as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. So I'm just trying to get my whole screen share set up. All right. Feel free, Isabel. I think it'd be safe now if we can close the poll and then we'll get started with what we got today. So as we go through the presentation today, there'll be two different speakers. It'll be me, myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Genesis Lozano. I'm a career counselor at the Career Center, specifically helping out with on-campus student employment programming. So anything with helping students find on-campus positions. As we go through the session today, I'll be talking. I also have Deanna from Work Study. You will meet her in a little bit. I'm just going to go over Work Study and talk about all your fun questions regarding Work Study. As you have any questions, I encourage you all to put them in the Q&A function. It's really hard for us to keep track of questions in the chat function, but if you put them in the Q&A function, that'll ensure that your question gets answered and it's easier for us to use. So this is what those buttons look like. You might have to press the More function for you to see the Q&A function, but you can type in your questions there and we'll make sure to answer them live. If not live, then I'll have someone answer them in the Q&A box. But yeah, let's kind of go through. So quick overview, just benefits of working on campus. We're going to talk about where to apply, some tips for the application process, some Career Center resources to help you out, and then we're going to go into federal work study and leave some space for questions. So I briefly wanted to go over some of the benefits of working on campus. There's a lot of different benefits from working off and on campus. They both have different transferable skills that you'll gain from, but working on campus provides flexible schedules. You can go from working in class to then going to your on-campus job, right? It provides a balance that creates. We also limit you to 20 hours per week, which is really for the students' benefit. We want to make sure that you all are handling your academics, your personal life, and your work well. So that's why we limit 20 hours. There's opportunity for professional growth, right? An on-campus job is investing in your professional development by providing training, skill building, and it's giving you an opportunity to build transferable skills. There's the easy commute. You're already coming to campus for classes. You might as well work on campus as well and build usually your hours do allow a little flexibility to build around your campus schedule. That varies from job to job on campus, what I'll say, right? If you're working a front desk position, they probably need certain hours from you. So that's something to keep in mind when looking for on-campus employment. What are the requirements that they're needing for that specific position, and can you fulfill them? It also creates networking opportunities, right? Through on-campus employment, you can build network and connect with mentors. You get a supervisor that you can learn a lot from, and it allows you to build a sense of belonging on campus, right? By getting an on-campus job, you're building a community of different folks around you that you can learn from. So it's another kind of some of the benefits of working on campus. Another benefit is a career readiness program. So we have this program called From Here to Career that student employees on campus can take advantage of. So it's a career readiness program designed for current student assistants, meaning you have to have an on-campus job already, but it gives you access to an online course where you can engage with other student assistants, but also go through different modules that are talking about how we're building skills to get ready for the world of work after graduation, right? So you have a dedicated advisor you can meet with. You also can meet with alumni and network with different alumni who were student employees like you. So it's a great program that I encourage you all to take advantage of if you do become a student employee. It's another one of those benefits. All right, so now we know the benefits of on-campus employment. Where do we look for an on-campus job? I think that's the biggest question a lot of my students start off with is really it's just beginning with your connections. Speak with your friends. You can talk to academic advisors, professors. A lot of the times professors need a student assistant in their office or they're looking for a research assistant. It just starts with those around you. That's the most easiest place to begin, right? You can connect with your specific major department, stay connected to their listserv. You can search with popular on-campus employers using CareerLink, which we're going to go over in a moment, and using Handshake. Handshake is probably the first and foremost place that I'd begin as a student. You use Handshake regularly to search for on-campus jobs to apply. And I underlined regularly because Handshake always has different jobs being posted. Sometimes a student goes in and they check one day and they're like, well, I didn't find anything, and they give up on Handshake. No, you have to consistently be looking at Handshake to see what new jobs pop up. Um, and for those of us who haven't seen Handshake, this is what Handshake kind of looks like when you log in. And what's great about Handshake, it has a filter specifically for on-campus jobs. So when you open up the filter function, you'll see where it says all filters. You can filter for on-campus employment. By doing that, you're going to open up positions that are specific just to CSUN. So the majority of on-campus jobs are on Handshake, but all federal work studies jobs have to be posted on Handshake. Yeah, I see Deanna nodding her head, so I'm like, yes. So please, you already have an account and you already have access to it. So as you become a student at CSUN, your login your Northridge CSUN login will allow you to access Handshake. So you already have an account. If you've never logged in before, it'll probably ask you some questions about like your preferences, your career preferences. I always encourage you to answer those questions because it'll give you more relevant positions like internships and full-time jobs after your time here at CSUN. So I encourage you to answer those questions. But once you answer those questions, you're in your profile. You can start using the jobs function on the left-hand side, which you'll see here, and then start looking for different on-campus opportunities. Now, like I said, Handshake is updated regularly. There are students, we have student assistants who consistently approve different jobs of different employers who are submitting their requests. So you can go in and set up an email reminder. So if you're like, I want to get emailed every time there's a new on-campus job posted, you can do that in Handshake. So I encourage you all to look into that function. It's very helpful. All right, other spaces. There are some employers that do not necessarily hire through Handshake. Just because they're so large, they do have their own functions. So here are some of those employers. We have Associated Students, we have CSUN Student Housing, the Learning Resource Center, the Soraya hires a lot of students. They have ushers in various different roles. We also have EOP, the University Corporation. Those are the folks that like hire the eateries on campus, or like different food places on campus. So that's a good kind of place to begin as well. The USU, the University Library. We acknowledge that this is a lot of different websites, right? So we're at the Career Center, we're like, that's a lot of different websites for students to filter through. We piled them all into CareerLink, which is our online career tool that you can access. If you just go to csun.edu/CareerLink, there's a place for on-campus jobs that you can use to see all of these landing pages for these employers looking to hire students. So I encourage you, this is also another good place to start. All right. Now that we kind of know popular on-campus employers, where to go next, I want to go over a little kind of break down what does the process for getting an on-campus job look like. I think there's a lot of confusion around what it looks like. Some students just think like, I'll come to campus and, this job is the one I'm going to get and I'm just going to place in a job. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, right? It is like a traditional job market where you have to apply to the position. Maybe there's an interview, and then they decide if they want to hire you onto the department. So it starts off with first creating a resume and cover letter. Like any other job application, right? Gather any additional documents that they might request. Sometimes some folks might request unofficial transcripts, a schedule of availability. That's usually a big one to make sure that you are available to work the job that you're working. Then you usually submit this. Usually it's online via Handshake. So Handshake allows you to upload your resume, your cover letter, usually any supplemental documents. Or if they have their own online hiring portal or via email, sometimes the way it goes. Then you wait back to hear from the department and you are then offered an interview or deciding what kind of the next step is in the process. And then it's up to you to keep track of your application status. Wait to hear back from employers about what next steps are. I will acknowledge, right, that some employers, like I think about the university library that has on Handshake, just a posting that goes year round usually to hire students, and they don't actively check it. What they'll do is when they are looking for a student employee to hire, they'll go through that pool of students and kind of pull applications that work. But it's not like they're consistently saying like, we are looking for this position. The position for the most part is almost not all year round on Handshake, but it's Handshake for a good amount of the year so that they can capture different student employee applications. So just keep that in mind. I get the big question of students like, I don't hear back right away, or I applied, it's been like 2 weeks and I haven't heard anything. On average, it takes about like 3 to 4 weeks to hear back from those employers. So just keep that in mind. Really read the job description and kind of understand the job that you're applying to and what that process is going to look like. All right, let's go over some general tips for the application process, right? What can you do to make yourself a strong candidate? There's a lot of students looking for on-campus work, so making sure you're putting your foot forward in the best way possible is what our hopes is for today. So, some tips for the application process. Connect with your professors and your college department. We talked about this earlier. So connect with your professors, your major department, see if they know of any available opportunities within your major. That's usually a good place to start. Read the job description thoroughly, right? I think that's a big one. Make sure you understand the qualifications that the employer is looking for. Is there a certain availability they need? Class level, knowledge, skills, right? If you are reading the job description, that means you are tailoring your resume to the job description, right? So if you know that if you're going to apply to a position within IT on campus, maybe they need certain skill sets for that student. Maybe you need to know how to code. Maybe you do need to know how to use certain software, right? So you can build a strong cover resume and cover letter and make sure you're showing off those skills on that resume. So then comes the next piece, right? Building a resume and cover letter. That's going to open up the opportunity just to secure an interview, right? These materials are going to explain why you're a good candidate for the job. And then, of course, last but not least, it's that next piece after the resume and cover letter. It's going to be practicing those interviewing skills. Sit down with friends, mentors, come to the Career Center, talk to a career counselor, do a mock interview. The more you practice, the easier it will get, especially if you've never had an interview, right? I think back to me in undergrad, my first ever job was an on-campus job. So I needed that support, and I went to my career center to talk about how to create a resume or cover letter, how to interview. I've never done those things. So you have the support and the resources on campus. I encourage you all to use them to make yourself a strong applicant for the next position that you apply to. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about what it means to build a strong resume. So a strong resume shows just your qualifications at a glance. It demonstrates your fit for the role. And really our goal of a resume is to open up an opportunity for an interview, right? You're not trying to get the job solely based off your resume. We want to provide an opportunity to say, hey, I want to interview, right? Invite me to an interview. It's providing evidence of your accomplishments. Your resume should focus on accomplishments. What are things that you've done, work that you've taken on in the past? Really, in short, it should talk about what you've done and what you're bringing to the team. What are some essential categories of a resume? For sure, every resume should have contact information. I should be able to clearly see how to call you, email you. I should see your education, your experience, and any relevant skills, right? This is where I encourage you to make sure that you're reading the job description to make sure that you are tailoring your resume to whatever the job's needs are, right? And making sure that the biggest question I get is like, what skills should I highlight? I worked as a camp counselor and I did a lot of different things in this program, being a camp counselor, but what skills should I focus on highlighting? Read the job description. What skills are they asking for? What is needed in the role, right? That is what tailoring means. What are some optional categories? Awards, training, certifications, extracurriculars, conference, any attending conferences, I think what I meant to put there, and any presentations that you've attended or given, right? Those are some optional categories. You don't all have to put that on your resume. It's definitely a give and take. Because ideally your resume should be one page. For on-campus employment for sure, right? We're not looking for more than one page. We want to make sure that you can concisely write on a resume and put it into one page. These are some good examples. A strong resume is clean, it's easy to read, it's organized, right? And it's tailored to the position. So these are some good examples. I can spend hours and hours on resumes, and we actually have a workshop later this month on the 17th that goes more into detail on resumes. So I encourage you to join us for that. But one kind of next thing that I want to highlight is just I think the biggest piece is showcasing your experience, right? I'm thinking about how you're showcasing your experience and organizing it in a way that makes sense for an employer looking at your resume, right? Bullet points are probably the easiest way to go. It's the easiest way to read a resume and understand a resume. Clear action statements with quantified tasks. So you'll notice here, the student led groups of 10 plus parents, right? They created icebreakers and class activities for a category 30 class. Like they're giving me numbers so I can understand really the scope of the task that they took on. Right? So look at these active verbs that they use, the numbers that they're using. They're using clear dates. If you're putting dates, it's helpful to put month and year. Don't just put years, right? I can clearly see their job title, right? These small things go a long way in terms of making your resume easy to read, right? The most important aspect of your resume is showcasing those transferable skills that you might have gotten from, doing other things. If we're a freshman first, semester here at CSUN, lean on your experience in high school, any clubs that you're a part of, any volunteer experience, right? The next question I often get asked is, what if I have limited experience, right? I think that's a big question. It's okay. We acknowledge, right? If you have limited experience, that's fine. You're here at college to gain experience, to get involved. So I'd encourage you to lean on showing transferable skills. What are skills that can be applied different jobs, right? Even though, let's say I was one of my early positions is like being a babysitter. I was self-employed. I just did it for my neighbor. But it was employment that I had that I was getting paid for, right? So how can I showcase this on my resume? What did I do there? I was organized. I worked with young children. I was responsible for their enrichment and helping them with their homework. So thinking of skills that can be applied across different jobs and showcasing on your resume is kind of key. Use your academics. Lean on, relevant coursework, any class projects you might be working on, any research or presentations you completed in class. Highlight your involvement, right? There are other ways to build experience that doesn't have to be paid, right? You can join associated students, join leadership. There's a lot of different leaderships through associated students that you can use to get involved and build experience. You can look for volunteer opportunities with the Matador Involvement Center. They have a great database of different volunteer opportunities. You could also join a club or organization, right? Meet the Clubs, I think, is going on today and tomorrow from 11 to 2 out on the quads. Go out to meet the clubs, see what clubs you can get involved in to start building that experience. And then last but not least, build your story in the cover letter. Connect your story and why you're a good fit for the role in the cover letter. So there's that two-piece, the resumes and cover letters that you need to focus on to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward for applying to jobs on campus. Oops. All right. So we talked about a cover letter, right? What is the purpose of a cover letter? It's to personalize your application. We're going to highlight key qualifications. We just want to demonstrate your communication skills, right? In short, your resume is what you've done, but your cover letter explains why it matters and why you're seeking this role and why you're a good fit. What goes in a cover letter? Header and greeting, opening paragraph, middle paragraph, closing paragraph. Really, we want you to state why you're interested in the role, why you're excited about it, some qualifications and examples, right? How have your experience and skills match the role? And then next steps. Thank you for, reviewing my application and thinking about if you're going to get invited to an interview, right? Again, I can go in a whole hour workshop on cover letters and I won't. But really, I want you to think about your cover letter is important. It should be attached to a resume. It makes a difference often with applying to on-campus jobs because it can show employers that you're interested and you're able to not just list, right, your accomplishments, you're able to tie them to specific examples of the role that you'd be taking on. We have resources. We have a great resume guide, right, for you to use to make your resume and cover letter. So I encourage you to use it and come into our drop-in advising hours that we have. And we'll make sure to link that in the chat for anyone that wants to use it. The next step is interviewing, right? So thinking about how to get ready for an interview. And once you've got the job, right, you've got the interview, you applied, you submitted your resume and cover letter, let's think about how we're going to interview and how to do that successfully. Here are a couple tips, right? Researching the company, understanding the job that you are interviewing for. A lot of times students will come into a job interview and be like, I don't actually remember what I applied to. So really research the job, understand how to be ready for the workplace, meaning dressing for success. We can also help you with that. Have workplace ready attire, ask insightful questions, very obvious things as well. It's like, turning off your cell phone so you can avoid distractions. Another big thing, right, is preparing an elevator speech or a 1-minute commercial. The big thing about interviews is just being able to talk about yourself. And sometimes that could be hard. Admittedly, right, I struggle with that sometimes as well. But preparing beforehand can help you do that. So what does that look like? A 1-minute commercial is really, you'll hear this a lot with different employers, right? Do you have a 1-minute commercial? Do you have an elevator pitch? It's just a way to introduce yourself for a variety of things. One, to introduce yourself maybe to an employer, to prepare for an interview. Maybe you're going to go into job shadowing or an internship. Having a 1-minute commercial ready and understanding how to introduce yourself is very essential to an interview, especially. So thinking about that question, right? The biggest question we get at the beginning of interviews is tell me about yourself. And the best way to answer that question is by using your 1 minute commercial. So what goes in that 1 minute commercial, right? It should include who you are, your related experience, your strengths and skills, any interests that you have, and maybe personal preferences, right? And as soon as you kind of have like this structure, this initial questions answered, you can read it out loud and kind of revise it until it feels natural. Your goal is not to memorize it. Your goal is to make it feel like a muscle memory where you have kind of the bullet points of the what should go in your 60-second commercial or your 1 minute commercial, so that when you are asked a question, tell me about yourself. You've given it thought already, so it doesn't feel like you're just on the spot, like, actually, I don't know why I'm here and who I am. So this is a good example, right? So hello, my name is Talented Student. I'm a sophomore here at CSUN pursuing a degree in psychology. I noticed you have a position available for a clerical assistant. I believe my experience aligned well with the role. Then you go into talking about your related experience, your strengths and skills, right? What did you do in the past? As a volunteer after school counselor, I work with students from diverse backgrounds, often communicating important details to parents and staff efficiently and accurately. For instance, once a week, I organize weekly updates for over 30 families, ensuring they receive clear and timely information about program activities. Additionally, as my role as secretary of the psychology club, on campus, I successfully managed the logistics of our annual mental health awareness event, which involved coordinating schedules, creating promoting materials, and ensuring smooth communication among team members, right? And then there's that closer. There's always some sort of things you want to close with or an action item, right? You're excited about the opportunity to maybe talk more about how your organizational and communicational skills can contribute to the role as a clerical assistant. It seems like a lot, but with practice and time and thinking through these things, you can have the opportunity to practice this with an employer. So I encourage you all to spend time reflecting and thinking about how to speak about yourself, especially for interviews, and practicing it. Where are the best places to practice it? You can do it with a mentor, a friend, a counselor. So I encourage you all to think about these things as you're preparing to go on the journey of finding an on-campus job. All right. After an interview, send that thank you email, usually within 48 hours. And if you want to kind of see what's going on after application, 2 to 3 weeks after the interview could be a good place to follow up. Get the contact information at the end of an interview, get someone's email, the point of contact who's hiring, so then you can follow up via thank you email. All right. Everything that I've just talked about is in CareerLink. You can access this in csun.edu/CareerLink. There's many, many more resources on resumes, cover letters, interviewing. I just scratched the surface. Everything that I've talked about will be there, and it'll be there for you all to use as you continue on this journey of the job application process. What else do we have? I mentioned drop-ins. If you want to talk with someone about accessing Handshake, or you want to talk more about getting your resume critiqued or your cover letter critiqued, you've drafted it up, but you're just not sure, please come in. We have drop-in appointments available. I mean, they're not appointments, you just drop in. They're set hours, Monday through Friday, where you can come in and get help from a career counselor or a peer educator. We have Maddie's Closet. You get one free workplace ready outfit. If you're like, I have an interview, I did it, I followed all your rules, I got an a job interview. Please come into Maddie's Closet. If you're like, I don't have any clothes for this job interview, we can help style you and talk about what that means. And again, the best place to practice these 1 minute commercials and introducing yourself is career fairs. Attend a career fair. We have 2 different career fairs this semester for you all to attend. So I encourage you to check that out. These are drop-in hours. We'll make sure to put those in the chat for you all to access. They're virtual and in person, again, Monday through Thursday. But now, with that being said, I talked a lot about kind of how to find a job on campus. What is the most successful way to find a job on campus? I'm going to pass it over to Deanna from Financial Aid and Scholarship Department, and she's our financial aid counselor and student employment programs coordinator. So she knows all about work study. She's much more knowledgeable than me. So she's going to talk a little bit about what work study is and how to access it. So I'll pass it over to you, Deanna. Oh, I think you're on mute if you want to unmute yourself. Oh, sorry, you're on mute again. I think that was my bad. Go.
Okay. I think I'm on now.
Yeah.
All right. So let me prepare here a little bit and share my slide with you all. And while I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Diana Medina, as mentioned. I am a financial aid counselor, but student employment coordinator as well here at CSUN. Thank you, Genesis, so much for this presentation. I always feel like I take so much out of this presentation myself. Even though I'm not looking for a job, I get so much information to help you all look for a job. So the reason that I'm here to talk about federal work study is because many of you, when you start applying for jobs, employers on campus may ask you, are you a federal work study student or are you federal work study eligible? And so I just want to make sure that I provide you with an additional tool to understand what this is. And what it is, it's a financial aid award. So the federal government actually provides students with an award that you then have to find a job, an employer, where you can earn this financial aid award. And so the benefit of this particular award is that employers are not necessarily having to pay your full paycheck because you're coming in with this work study award that you're earning there as part of the requirement to receive this financial aid award. So, how do you apply for this? You have to submit a FAFSA. There is a date. Just like all other financial aid programs, if many of you receive, the FAFSA is the one application that gives you access to this opportunity. You also have to have what's called the student need index of 0 or below. Don't worry if you don't know what this is. Don't worry if you don't know what your student need index. I will provide you with some information in terms of how to contact us to find out if you qualify to receive this award. Then all students do have to complete a survey online to let us know that yes, indeed, you are interested in the work study program. Then you go through Handshake, which we received a full tutorial on what that handshake is. And you would apply to these jobs. And once you get hired, you're going to work and earn the payment of your award. So, let me see, why is my, the qualifications, as I mentioned here again, are April 2nd, student aid index. You do have to maintain good grades, but this goes for all financial aid, which is called meeting satisfactory academic progress. Again, don't worry if you don't understand a lot of these financial aid topics. You could always reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you. We pre-screen each student to make sure that you meet these qualifications. Now, with financial aid, all students are required to be at least part-time to be able to receive these fundings, and the federal work study program is not an exception. So you do have to maintain part-time enrollment while you can receive this award and earn it. And again, here is the survey. Now, how do you apply for these jobs? So once you complete the survey, and many of you will be like, well, where do I find the survey? We pre-screen all of our CSUN students and we sent you out an email on August 12th. So we typically send it out in August, letting you know, hey, we received your FAFSA and you meet the criteria, meaning that you submitted it by that April 2nd. You have your meeting satisfactory academic progress. So you met that criteria and we're letting you know, hey, you qualify for this award. If you're interested, complete the survey and then start applying for jobs. Now, how much is this award, you might say? Well, it's a $6,000 award that you earned half of it in the fall semester. You earned the other half in the spring semester. So employers really are interested in looking at applicants who have this work study eligibility. And this is part of the reason why I'm here is with the Career Center, because most, if not all of our on-campus employers do have positions for federal work study. And this is why this may be something that comes, a question that comes by you from an employer when you're applying to their jobs. So again, we have on campus, we do have a few off-campus nonprofit employers. Now, if you currently or potentially will work with an off-campus employer, you wouldn't automatically be able to use your award unless that employer has registered with our office to become a qualified work study employer. But they could always reach out to us as well. And like I said, at the end, I'll have our contact information for you guys. Now, we do have a link here from the Career Center for other on-campus employment. You're welcome to kind of take a look at that, but I know that Genesis provided that career link. This one is just more specific to the on-campus employment versus like the vast career link that gives you access to, again, interviews, resumes, all of the great topics Genesis talked about. Now, here is a screenshot for the handshake. As Genesis mentioned to you guys, there is a filter that you would filter for on campus jobs. But in addition, if you are a work study eligible student, Handshake will have what's called a work study filter available for you. Now, when you are conducting your job search, if you go to your filters and you see that you have the on campus option, but don't see the work study, again, give us a contact to find out if you qualify. Um, Typically it would mean you don't qualify, but every once in a while we'll get students that are eligible for work study but don't have the work study filter. It could just be like a minor glitch that your name didn't get filtered through the handshake system, and so we can manually correct that. So don't be too discouraged if you don't see it. Again, contact us and we will be happy to check your eligibility and let you know if you're work study eligible. Now, as Genesis mentioned, there are some on campus employers that do not use the handshake posting system to advertise their jobs, but instead they have their own platforms. And we have three work study employers here that do that. So the University Student Union is a work study employment opportunity, Associated Students, and student housing as well. So all of their positions would qualify for you to earn that work study award with them. Now, what if you qualify for work study? What if you don't qualify for work study? You're here, right? You don't qualify for work study. Can you still get a job? And the answer is yes. CSUN actually hires more non-work study students than work study. Because work study is a financial aid award, there is limited funding for those awards. So not every student that qualifies can receive the award. So it is an award that is on first come, first basis. So as you're applying for jobs, this is why employers have limited positions for work study, because they have limited funding to have those positions available. Now, one other thing is that the work study positions are not guaranteed, as most typical jobs aren't, right? Where it's a competitive process, and so the best qualified position goes to the most qualified candidate. And hopefully you guys were taking like crazy notes when Genesis was telling you about the resume, what employers are looking for, that cover letter. I'm an employer. I look at those things all of the time. And yes, you may not proceed to an interview if your resume and or cover letter is not strong, because another potential student may have a stronger cover letter or resume. Just the way it doesn't mean that they have more experience, but they were able to better articulate all those skills and experiences that they have on that resume that the employer is looking at. So again, you guys are already ahead by showing up today and learning all of the tips and tricks to getting that job. So here is our contact information for the Federal Work Study Program. We have a website, but we also have an email, and then we have a phone line. And so if you guys are interested to find out whether you qualify, or maybe you did see that invitation email we sent out last month, because we are in the month of September now. August is like a whole month ago away. We sent it to you. Check your email. If you can't find it, give us a call, send us an email, let us know. always make sure that you're dropping your CSUN ID number, whether you're calling us or emailing us, so that we can better serve you. That means we can look up your file immediately and see if you qualify or don't. And that is it for my section. I
Hey,
hope we left enough for Q&A.
we did. Thank you so much. I do have a couple questions for you since I have you here too. And we're on the topic of federal work study that were put in the Q&A.
Perfect.
Um, let's see. I have some students who are asking, is the federal work study program only for US citizens?
Great question. So it's not just US citizens, but you do have to be an eligible non citizen, meaning that you have to be a student that qualifies for the FAFSA application. So permanent residents, asylum seekers, if you do have an I-94 where your asylum was approved, is considered a non eligible citizen. So you're not quite a US citizen, but you have eligibility status. And again, I know that's kind of lingo that I know, and again, but you don't have to only exclusively be a U.S. citizen. So permanent residents and then qualified individuals can also receive this award.
Yeah, that's a good question too. Even I was like, oh, I was like, I didn't know that one. There's another student who said, is it too late to apply for federal work study now? And can international students apply for it? Kind of similar.
Similar question, yes. So international students would not qualify because you're not an asylum seeker. You're actually here on a student visa. And so those positions would not qualify for federal assistance. And that's what this federal work study is for. So, to the second part of the question, is it too late? No, it is not. We currently have 24 work study positions available on Handshake. So, and I know that we have a department called Undergraduate Research Office. It's a new department. It's been around for 2 years now. So if you're an undergraduate student and are interested in doing research, they're looking for research assistants, and their position is work study as well. So you can take a look at it. Athletics is looking to hire. Campus police, they're looking for a lot of Matador patrol out there. So those are like employers that are like looking right now to hire students. So there is positions. So apply, search, look for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, I would have to agree. You do have to search, right? Like Deanna was saying, you have to go into Handshake. And what I also say about Handshake is, again, all those federal work study positions are posted in there, and you'll see that same acronym, the FWS. So usually in the job description title. So, and if you have federal work study and you've gone through all the necessary requirements, you completed that survey Deanna was talking about, you will see them in your Handshake. If you do not see them, it means you're not eligible for them. So that's kind of a key component. You'll know if you have federal work study if you go into your Handshake and you are able to see those positions. And if you do not have them, you will not see them. So that's kind of a big key component.
And just
Um,
to add a little bit to that, Genesis, when you're conducting that filter option that I said, when you hit on campus and the work study option, actually it'll filter out and it'll show you a listing of open work study positions if you have that
awesome.
filter again. So
Yeah. Awesome. That's a good thing to use. Those filters are helpful because it can feel overwhelming. Handshake has a lot of different opportunities. Right now, we're specifically just talking about like federal work study opportunities, on-campus jobs. So it's helpful to use that function because there's internships, there's full-time jobs, there's jobs in like different states. So I encourage you to use those filters. If you are struggling using Handshake or you're having a hard time getting access, this typically happens to students if this is their first semester at CSUN. Email us at handshake@csun.edu so we can make sure we can look at your profile and make sure that you are getting the correct access to your Handshake. So sometimes that does happen, but I encourage you to reach out to us. I also had another question if this is a good question. Someone asked, are SENG students eligible for work study? So if they're in the SENG um part of the university or send college?
Great question. So typically, SANG students are not eligible for the federal work study program. We do have one exception, which is the abnormal behavioral psychology program that does participate in the work study program, but they typically only hire within their major student programs, and that is the SANG college. Department, but other outside of that, they would not qualify.
Gotcha, gotcha. That is a good question. Yeah. All right, good to know. I also had a good question that we were talking about earlier, Deanna. So we had a student who asked, so if someone uses the DREAM Act as financial aid and cannot apply for photo work study, do you want to mention that program that you talked to me about earlier for our dreamers?
Perfect. We did it. We discussed this earlier. Thank you for asking the question. Because this presentation is for employment purposes, this other program that's available is not employment, but it is a financial aid program specifically for our DREAM students called the DREAM Service Incentive Grant. And I'm actually going to post the website where you can learn more information about this to
Mhm.
everyone here on the chat. Let me see. And I know it's always hard to type and talk at the same time, so I
I know. No
apologize.
worries.
Um, and so, and basically, if you are a dream student, and what that means is that you qualify and applied for the California Dream Act. This program grants you, will give you a grant up to 4,500 a year if you complete volunteer hours or do community service. We will be reaching out to our Dreamers students later this month. Similarly, by sending them an email, letting them know we have your dream application and here is this program. And hopefully, we will have some on campus volunteer and or community services available for you. At this time, we don't have any just yet. But you could always reach out to us using the same contact information at work.study to find out more about the Dream Service Incentive Grant. But here is the link if you guys want to take a look at the criteria and a little bit about what that program is. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. I think that's an important resource for our undocumented students and our dreamers in the room. So yay. All right. So there are a couple other questions that I wanted to answer as well. Shannon, I have my graduate student here that works out of the Career Center. Can you help me by reading some of the questions for me that you see in the Q&A function?
Absolutely. Okay. So let me see. I see one that says, do I need to apply to the federal work study separately, or if I'm already receiving FAFSA, am I eligible?
Hmm. Deanna, do you want to take this one on? She's
I,
like, I did mine.
I wasn't, can you read the question again? I'm
All
sorry.
right. It's okay. So the question is, do I need to apply for federal work study separately, or if I'm already receiving FAFSA, am I already eligible?
Yes, definitely. You have to. It's a job application, so you have to go through Handshake and apply to the jobs that are available. So your FAFSA application is only an application to determine if you qualify for this award. But if you are actually wanting to receive the award and earn it, you have to have a job. So you have to apply to a job.
And then to follow up on that, when I see someone put, let's say you got awarded federal work study, you're looking for positions, and they don't get any, let's say in the fall semester, does that say for spring? Does it roll over? What does that look like?
Oh, you answered it. It rolls over to spring. So yes. If you don't find anything in the fall, or you don't get a call back, and maybe you need to, again, maybe take a look at that resume again, maybe that cover letter, you can try applying again in the spring semester.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, Shannon. Any other
We have a student who their situation seems to be that they are having difficulty finding a position because they don't have a social security number. But in order to get help on the process to getting a social security number, they need an offer letter. So they're just wondering how to solve that problem.
I did see that question. I'll answer
Mhm.
this one because I've experienced it with international students I've hired before. So, I see this specific student said that they got offered the position, and then usually what happens for my international students, I know I probably have a handful in here because you all can only work on campus, right? You can't look for off-campus employment. With typically everyone's situation is a little different. You can go to the IESC, the International Exchange Student Center, to talk to them about your specific visa situation. But for the most part, our international students can only work on campus. And once you go, you begin starting off by submitting those applications, putting together a resume, putting together a cover letter. Let's say you do get through the interview process, you get offered the position. The next step that you would have to take is reach out to the Social Security office to get a Social Security number. Sometimes that process takes a little bit. On average, it depends like 2 to 3 weeks usually to kind of get through the process, sometimes a little bit sooner. Everyone's situation's a little bit different. But sometimes because that process takes a little bit, I'm seeing that the job opportunity maybe fell through, which is really unfortunate. I think I'm sorry that that happened to you. There's no necessary ways to kind of like go around this. Oftentimes in the Social Security office, what they'll ask for is an offer letter from the job that you've been offered that's offering you employment. You can ask the employer to create an offer letter for you so that you can show that to the Social Security office to get a Social Security number to move forward in the hiring process. You did everything you needed to. There's nothing different that you could have done to like handle the situation. It's just the way it was. But that's a good question. That's kind of insight in terms of what happens next for international students once you do get the job offer.
Okay, thank you, Genesis.
Mhm.
Another one, this is more just a general career question. The question is, what does a good following up for an application look like? So phone calls, just asking about the status of the application, etc.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say typically kind of read if you had an interview with the employer and you connected with them, get good way to contact them, right? At the end of an interview, they'll always ask you, do you have any questions for us? That's a good space to ask, like, you should have their contact information. Usually when they reach out to schedule an interview, it's like via email or like a phone call. So it's whatever you feel like is the most preferred method of communication with the department that you applied to. If they've been doing a lot of coordinating with you via email, it's okay to send an email to the person who is the hiring manager who's making the decision, maybe the direct supervisor you'll be working with, in terms of like next steps, what that looks like. I'd encourage you to come into drop-ins to kind of even help put together that email. It could look like, hi, it was uh, great interviewing for you all. I'm really excited about the opportunity. I wanted to get an update on my application status. You can reach me either by phone call, and you can list your phone number, or via email. That's kind of what the gist of the message could say, but that's kind of a good follow-up to go with.
Thank you. Alrighty, we have our students who only have one semester left still eligible to work on campus.
As long as you're an enrolled student, right, and in classes at least part-time, I believe, you can work on campus. So really the biggest thing for being a student assistant on campus is that you have to be a student. So you have to be currently taking classes and you have to be enrolled at least half-time. So yeah, if it's your last semester and you end up finding like a job and opportunity, you can still work on campus.
Awesome. I did see one question. It was asking about if it's something like a restaurant job or the different restaurants on campus. Are those also available in Handshake?
Yeah, that's a good question. So those will not necessarily be in Handshake. That's through the University Corporation, or TUC is often what it's called. So I'd encourage you to go into CareerLink and take a look at you can find their website and their hiring process via CareerLink and their main landing page. You could also Google CSUN, the University Corporation, and find their website as well. We're gonna take a pause here, Shannon, because I want to also in terms of questions, I want to launch our last poll. So as I'm looking at our timer here, how much time we have left, I want to launch our last poll. For the students who were here earlier, we had a poll. I encourage you all to answer the questions to this poll. It'll help us so much for creating our next presentation or our next workshop. And I also want to talk about what our next event is. So we have an event this Thursday. So we're doing an on-campus job panel. So today was a lot of information. Deanna and I were talking about, kind of the nitty-gritty of like submitting applications, resume, cover letters, what federal work study is, so you all can understand what this means and make you more successful as you're applying to jobs on campus. But on Thursday, we have a panel. So this is definitely more of a discussion, more dialogue. We're actually bringing different on-campus employers to answer your questions. So both Deanna and I are supervisors and we hire students into our department, but don't just take it from us. We're going to bring other employers to talk to you all about what they look for in students, what do they look for in applications, how to make yourself more competitive. We even have we have a career counselor and a current student assistant on campus. To answer some of your questions. So if you want to understand what it's like to have a job on campus once you do have that job, they'll speak to that, and we'll have a career counselor to also answer any questions about how to develop those skills you need or what are some strategies to finding work on campus. So I encourage you all to attend. You can RSVP if you can scan this QR code. You could also look this up event in Handshake. It's called On Campus Jobs Panel. It's this Thursday from 2 to 3. It's also via Zoom, so I encourage you to attend and see what different opportunities are available. We have some popular employers joining in, like the USU. For any of our international students, we'll also have the International and Exchange Student Center, so they'll know more about kind of the details of what it is needed to work on campus. But I wanted to give this kind of final plug of this event that we have on Thursday. And yeah, please answer the poll that we have up right now. It's live. There's 66 of us in here. Sorry, I want to get as much participation as possible. This will definitely help us as we're trying to figure out what programming we're going to offer for students in terms of on-campus employment and how we can help you all. So please answer those questions for us. That'll help us greatly. But with that being said, as soon as you answer that poll, feel free to head on out or put any other questions that you have for us in the chat. But that's really what we have for you all today. You can email us directly. Let me put our contact information up. At studentemployment@csun.edu. If you have any other questions specifically, about student employment, I'll have Deanna, if you want to put your email, the email for federal work study in the chat. I think that'd be a good space to put it so students can answer any other questions that they might have there. Please reach out. We're happy to help. And yeah, I think I'll go ahead and end the poll now. But thank you all so much for your time. I'll go ahead and stop sharing so I can see all of your